I'm sorry, there was a interruption in the middle. So we were discussing about the types of listening. So I'll just take you through the slides. See, there are all these types of listening: informative, attentive, relationship, appreciative, critical, discriminative, and empathetic. So what we have discussed till now is informative, attentive, and relationship. Informative listening, attentive listening, relationship listening, appreciative listening. So, what do we mean by appreciative listening? See, it includes listening to music for enjoyment. I mean, you listen to something because you appreciate something, right? For example, you listen to music for enjoyment, to speakers. You want to listen to some speakers because you like their style. You like your choices in the theater. You like television. You like radio. You like film. So anything that you appreciate and you just do it for the sake of entertainment, that is called appreciative listening. Appreciative sources might also include particular charismatic speakers or entertainers. These are personal preferences and may have been shaped through our experiences and expectations. So, why do you think you have those preferences, right? That's a personal choice. Like over a period of time, let's say that you like a speaker, the way that person talks, the way that person's personality is. So you like to listen to that kind of speaker, or why do you think like you like a particular music? Now that's completely a personal choice. Over a period of time, you have been, let's say for example, you like listening to classical music. So over a period of time, you've been listening to classical music and you've developed a taste for it. That's why you appreciate listening to something, and that is called appreciative listening. So it also depends on factors like presentation, perception, and your previous experience. So previous experience, then how do you perceive, and the presentation. So all these things are considered as appreciative listening. The next one is critical listening. What is critical listening? So, where the listener may be trying to weigh up whether the speaker is credible, whether the message being given is logical, and whether they are being duped or manipulated by the speaker. So, that is called critical listening. Sometimes something which is very important, wherein you are trying to put some weight on all these things, like you're completely going to see if the speaker is credible, and whatever that person is talking, whether it's correct or not. For example, if you're listening to a politician, you will always doubt that whatever commitment that politician is giving, is it trustworthy, is he or she trustworthy or not, or whether the message being given is logical, and whether they are being manipulated by the speaker or not. So that's why you critically try and listen, because some data, some facts, some figures are part of it, and that's why you want to listen it carefully. For example, anything that politician is saying, anything that you hear in by a media person, or anything that a salesman is going to commit. So all these things include critical listening. What are the important elements? So, ethos, for example, speaker's credibility. First thing, what elements are involved in critical thinking? First thing, speaker's credibility. Second one, logical argument. You always doubt the argument which person is saying, how much logical it is. And third one, psychological appeal, whether that person is psychologically appealing you or not. So ethos, logos, and pathos are three important elements which are connected with critical listening. Whenever you're listening to somebody, it's not just the words that you're counting on, but also the personality of a person and other non-verbal cues that a person is sharing with you. But what you are doing is doing a critical listening. The next one is discriminative listening. So, what do we mean by discriminative listening? Where the listener is able to identify and distinguish inferences or emotions through the speaker's change in voice, tone, their use of pause, etc. So, being a listener, all you are trying to do is you are trying to identify and distinguish inferences or emotions. Yeah, you can discriminate, right? Suddenly you can like, let's say if you listen to two ladies talking, will you be able to identify which is your mother's voice? Obviously, that means you can discriminate the sound. Like, if let's say if you have a pet dog as a pet, and if you are listening to two different barks, will you be able to make out which bark is your pet's bark? bark, yes, obviously you'll be able to, right? Whether a child is crying or whether any family member is laughing or giggling, you will be able to make out that okay, this is a person is related to me, right? So that is called discriminative listening. See, where the person, once again I repeat, where the listener is able to identify and distinguish inferences or emotions through the speaker's change in voice tone, their use of pause, etc. Because your own parents, you know how they talk, right? They might be taking some pauses in the middle, or the tone at which they talk, or the way they talk, right? That's what helps us discriminate. Where the listener may recognize and pinpoint a specific engine fault. Yeah, this is also discriminative listening. For example, mechanic, or let's say some of you who are very good at recognizing voice. If something is going wrong in your car, just by the sound of the engine, or just by some sound, additional sound which is coming inside within the car, you will be able to make out that, oh, there is some fault over here. So, whether it is a familiar laugh from a crowded theater, or your own child's cry in a noisy playground, then also you'll be able to make out that okay, there is, I know this, I can recognize this voice. And it is affected by what? What all things affect that ability? First one, your hearing ability. It is affected by your hearing ability, right? How well you are able to hear. It is also affected by awareness of sound structure, right? How well you are aware about the sound structure. Then integration of, and the integration of non-verbal cues. So what non-verbal cues you are sharing. So all these things, all these are the things that is going to affect your listening, discriminative listening. So your hearing ability, awareness of sound structure, and the integration of non-verbal cues. The next one is empathetic listening. What is empathy? You try and empathize somebody, you put yourself in others shoes, and you feel what they are feeling. That is called empathy. So when you're doing empathetic listening, what you're trying to do is you're trying to understand other person. See, where the listener tends to listen rather than talk. And the idea is to listen because somebody just needs somebody to listen. Their non-verbal behavior indicates that the listener is attending to what is being said. So their non-verbal cues are such that listener is attending, means listening to what is being said, and the emphasizes on understanding the speaker's feelings and being supportive and patient. So the emphasis is on what? To understand how are the speaker's feelings, and you are just trying to be supportive and patient also at the same time. So that is called empathetic listening. Now, if you need examples, then like let's say doctor is listening to a patient, where a patient is trying to explain what happened, what went wrong, or what you're going through. That means it is an empathetic listening. Let's say your friend just suffered went through a breakup, and you're just trying to understand the story. So all you try to do is like give a empathetic here. You just try and listen to that person, and just make that person feel that it's okay, you'll be okay, don't worry. So that is called empathetic listening, again, where the idea is not to talk, but just empathize. That is called empathetic listening. All right, just you can keep reading. Yeah. See, a person with normal hearing is not necessarily a good listener, because there are many different things that can prevent a speaker's message from being received. So they are called the barriers to listening. Now, since I mean, I wish you all were in the live class, we would have just discussed about the barriers according to you, right? Things which would keep you from being able to listen. But think about it. Now just if I ask you this question, that what are the things that is that is not why which are the things because of which you are not able to listen properly. Now of course it differs from one situation to another situation, but still I would like to know the things which actually hampers, which doesn't let you speak, doesn't let you listen. So what are those things? Just think about 5 things. Yeah. It could be anything, your concentration, the volume of other person, the language, some noise coming from outside, anything can be there, right? So now next what we are going to discuss is anatomy of poor listening, means barriers to listening. Now what are those barriers? So we will discuss all the points, but first we will just read them. First one, content. So too much content, too little content, or selective content, that is point number 1. Second one is speaker. Speaker's delivery, speaker's attitude. Next one is medium, distance and environment. Okay, I'll just read the main points. See, listening can be problematic because of all these reasons. First one, content. Second, speaker. Third one, medium. Then distractions. Then mindset. Next one is language. Next one, listening speed. And next one, feedback. Right? These are the barriers to listening. Now let us discuss them one by one. First thing is content. Now you know why it is a problem. First thing, listeners are knowing too much can be a problem. When you are listening to somebody, and if you are already aware about what other person is saying, then you will not be interested in listening to them, because you feel that okay, I already know. So if listener is knowing too much, then it is considered as a barrier. In the same way, if listener is knowing too little, right, very little, then it's like you don't even know the basics, so that means you're missing out on important points. Sometimes it happens is we don't have the background information, we don't know what happened with somebody in the past, so how will you be able to help them out? So listeners knowing too little, or selective listening. Sometimes what we do is we listen to only those things that we want to listen, and then we ignore the other things. So that means listeners knowing too much, listeners knowing too little, and even if you do selective listening, then also it is called a barrier to listening. So these are the content barriers. Next barrier could be because of language. Now obviously, see, if you do not have a common language, if the speaker is speaking in a different language and you're not able to decode it, then because of that you will not understand, or you will not listen, or there will be ambiguity, there will be misinterpretation, right? Very common thing, very obvious thing, right? Because you're confused, you don't know, your vocabulary is not sound, you don't know what that person is saying. That means you're missing out on important points one after the other. That is called ambiguity. And misinterpretation means that you're just trying to misinterpret, because you don't know. So that's why, because of the language, you try and misinterpret what was being told and what did you understand. So there is a difference between two, so that is called misinterpretation. Next one is speaker. Some barriers because of the speaker. Now you want to listen, but why are you not able to listen? Because of the speaker. So what is the problem? First thing is the problem in delivery. Now how they are trying to deliver, how is the delivery? First thing, clarity is not there, clarity of thoughts, so that's confusing. Then organization of ideas, the way you sharing, first thing, second thing, third thing, don't know, any points coming anytime, so you are also confused. Next one is speed. Speaker is speaking at a very fast speed, so you are missing out on important points, you are not able to listen them properly and act on it, so that is speed. Next one is volume. If somebody is talking, at a very lower volume, then obviously you are not able to listen, right? If I am taking a class very softly, and if last benchers won't be able to listen, then what's the point? That means it is a barrier to listening, but which is coming from my side. Then enunciation, you are not able to understand or pronounce what other person is trying to what the speaker is speaking, cannot pronounce. So again, you're mistaken, you don't understand. Next one is emotion, speaker's emotions. Maybe I am not considering, I'm not talking in the right with the right emotions, right? I'm having some anger, or I'm really sad, or I'm really upset, and all these things are not are disturbing for the listeners also, because they also don't know in the what way I'm talking. Next one is tone, right? The tone of the voice. If my tone is not right, if I'm talking at a very lower tone, or very higher tone, or at a very higher pitch, very lower pitch, then it's very confusing. Like we did discuss about the non-verbal communication, that is, we discussed paralinguistic features, and I in the first module, and I hope you remember how much important it was, or it is, to consider those paralinguistic features, that is the way you speak, right? So these are the same problems which can come up from the speaker, and because of which you are not able to listen. So that is called anatomy sorry the barriers which are coming from the speaker side. Also, your attitude towards the speaker. For example, if you have positive attitude towards the speaker, if you feel that whatever speaker is saying is right, is correct, then that means you will always be very open to the person you listening to. And if you're having negative attitude before listening, only if you feel that this person is not going to talk right, or maybe you're not going to learn anything from this person, or maybe it's going to be boring, I'm disinterested. So if you have negative attitude towards the speaker, then it is automatically a barrier to listening, because you will not be paying attention to the speaker. Some more things, see, appearance. For example, if you are distracted by a speaker's clothes, jewelry, or hairstyle, you may miss the main point of the message. This very often happens. Even in the classroom, if somebody is speaking, and if it's just distracted by the hairstyle, or distracted by the jewelry which somebody is making, wearing, or anything like the physical appearance that we are talking about, then that's called a distraction. The next one is manner. Some people constantly use filler words, like the way a speaker speaks, the manner in which speaker speaks, or constantly now it is very normal to come up with some kind of break, like that's okay, it's very normal. But if it is very frequently happening, very frequently, if somebody is just saying and all that, then that is disturbing. Then that's called that is some kind of distraction, actually. Concentration breaks because somebody is constant. You find it irritating, because you don't want to listen to those kind of things which break the conversation. So then constant fillers, like they are considered as uh, disturbing elements which is coming from the speaker side. And there are some people who look at the floor while speaking, or they tap their fingers during a conversation. So all these things distract the listener, because if I'm tapping my let's say that you and me, we are sitting on a table and we are trying to interact, and if I'm tapping my finger, or I'm tapping my feet, then it will distract you. Your attention will definitely go there, and then that will be a distraction. You will not be able to pay attention, because even for a second you will be missing out on the points. So these habits, they distract the listeners, who remember the annoying habit rather than the message. Then there is some prejudice also. Speakers who appear narrow minded or prejudiced also turn off listeners. Listeners are not likely to concentrate on that message when they are upset. Or have you ever prejudged somebody and later realized that you were wrong? So, this prejudice also, first thing towards the speaker for you. And if speakers are also thinking that this group of audience is always like this, then that means they will not be giving you the best, because they already have a negative attitude towards you, or they're prejudiced towards you. So that is also a barrier from the speaker side. So these are all the barriers we are discussing from the speaker side. Then even medium can be considered as a barrier. Now, if you were supposed to, let's say that if we are sitting in a bigger classroom, and if I am talking at a very normal volume, if I'm not able to raise my voice, so that last benchers can understand, that means it is a barrier from my side. So in that case, maybe I should choose a medium. What medium can I choose? Maybe I can use a mic, So then, if I'm not understanding the distance, if I'm not understanding the circumstances, whether the face is visible or not, right, then it is considered as a medium barrier. Next one is distraction, like extraneous stimuli. Some distractions can also be a barrier. For example, sound or lights or some smell that is coming or any moving objects. All these things can be considered as a distraction. Right, maybe see, you're listening to a recorded session. Once in a while, you might also be hearing the sound of the fan from my room. Sometimes I have to use it, so that is also sometimes could be a distraction, just the volume of it. Or some of the examples are bee flying around your head, suddenly honeybee is coming and is coming again and again. That's such a distraction and disturbance. Or let's say an ambulance siren, a siren is coming, and suddenly, then it's a distraction doing something, and that breaks your concentration. Or cell phone is going off, or somebody is coughing, or somebody is whispering, or somebody is giggling. So all these things are considered as distractions. Next one is the mindset. So we have already discussed this, means attitude of a person, right? Next one is listening speed. So the rate at which you listen and the rate at which the speaker talks, they are different, right? You can listen much faster than the speaker. So that means you have some time. Speaker is trying to speak something, and before that speaker completes, we have already heard, we have already made a judgment, and we have already concluded what that person was saying. So because of that, there can be misinterpretation, misunderstanding. Because of that, you are waiting for more information to come, and because of that, you've started thinking something else. So that is called difference in the listening and speaking rate, and that can be a barrier. Next one is feedback. So either it can be an appropriate feedback, or it can be an inappropriate feedback, right? If you have some feedback, if you're positive, then you will be giving an appropriate feedback, but inappropriate feedback can become a barrier. So these are the barriers of listening. Some of the other barriers are physical conditions, right? The place where you are sitting, if there is lot of noise coming from outside, then it is considered as a physical conditions. Or casual attitude, if your attitude towards the speaker is not right, if you're just casually sitting without any goal, without any purpose, without any intention to learn something or get some information, then that casual attitude itself is a barrier. Then speaking thinking rate, I already told you. Premature evaluation, again, speaker is trying to say something, and before that person ends, you've already evaluated without understanding what was the conclusion. So that is called premature evaluation. That is a barrier. Your status and your role, right? What that, suppose you sometimes, let's say a very senior person is sitting in front of you and that person is speaking. Sometimes you get so mesmerized that you're not able to pay attention to what that person is saying. All you do is like keep looking at them, keep observing them, and ensure that okay, the way I'm sitting is right or not, what will that person think of me, how will that person judge me. You're just worried about all these things, and so you're not able to listen, pay attention to what that person is saying. So what is the status in the society and what role you are playing can also act as a barrier. Last one is communication context. Now person is talking in a way, a context, this is very common way of common barrier actually. Most of the misunderstandings arises, especially in relationships also. You are trying to speak something from a different point of view, and other person is not understanding your context. They are literally taking the meaning, and then they are thinking that okay, what you said is wrong, then it is considered as a communication context. Context is different, right? Then you will not be able to understand. So these are considered as the barriers to listening. please keep reading. Have you ever been in the middle of a conversation when the person you are talking to just gets up and walks away, or fiddles in the chair, or looks everywhere but at you? How does this make you feel? Most people feel hurt. The listener acts as though he or she has absolutely no interest in what the speaker has to say, and yet, when it is their turn to talk, they expect, if not demand, attention. This is very common problem. So these are all the distractions. So are you a bad listener or a good listener? Let's take a look. See, good listener will always look at the person speaking. Right? What would you like for tea tonight, my dear? Just read it, okay? These are just good and bad listener point of view. So good listener is the one who will look at the person speaking, or answers in the correct way to show that they have listened. If you have heard something, if you have listened to something, you have to just be very straightforward and answer, like, please, could I have a lovely salad? Or a good listener is one who does not interrupt the person speaking. Don't interrupt in the middle. You have to wait till the person finishes speaking and then ask questions or give the feedback. Or good listener is one who does not rush the speaker. For example, I don't have the whole day for this, but rather than that, it's okay, take your time. Do not rush the speaker, let them take their time. Or good listener is one who asks appropriate questions, right? Ask appropriate questions, so that shows that okay, you've heard. Now let's look at the bad listener. Bad listener will not look at the person speaking. Bad listener does not answer in the correct way. Bad listener interrupt the person. Bad listener rushes the speaker. And bad listener doesn't ask appropriate questions. So what should you do? Here are some tips for being a good listener. Please go through this slide. Okay, so what should you do? See, give your full attention on the person who is speaking. Pay attention. Make sure your mind is focused. If you feel your mind is wandering, then change the position of your body and try to concentrate on the speaker's words. So that means your physical space should be clear. Let the speaker finish before you begin to talk. Let yourself finish listening before you begin to speak. Listen for the main ideas. The main ideas are the most important points the speaker wants to get across. Then ask the questions. If you are not sure what the speaker has said, just ask. You should ask the questions and then give feedback. Like, sit up straight and look directly at the speaker. Now and then, nod to show that you understand. At appropriate points, you may also smile, frown, laugh, or be silent. These are all the ways to let the speaker know that you are really listening. And remember, you listen with your face as well as your ears. So you have to give feedback. For example, if you're listening, you can always nod, right? The speaker will know that yes, you are listening. Or maybe you can smile, so they will know that yeah, your points were right. Maybe you can laugh a little bit, frown a little bit, or be silent if some important topics are going on. So these are the way you can act if you want to become a good listener. Remember, time is on your side. Thoughts move about 4 times as fast as speech. So, with practice while you are listening, you will also be able to think about what you are hearing, really understand it, and give feedback to the speaker. So, thinking fast, but you have to control it. Okay, quickly talking about features of a good listener. First thing, being non-evaluative. Do not judge the speaker. Accept the speaker without judgment. Second, paraphrase. You repeat it. You can always say that, okay, so you mean that this is how we should do it. Oh, your feelings towards the essay is like this. That means you're just repeating. That's called paraphrasing, just to ensure that whatever you heard is right. Then reflecting implications. For example, if somebody has asked you to do something, you should always show the eagerness. Okay, so you are suggesting that this will really help us. That is reflecting implication. Or reflecting hidden feelings. Can always say that if I were in your place, I would not have handled the situation so well. Or if that had happened to me, I would have been very upset. Means you're reflecting the feelings. That means you've understood, right, what that person was trying to say. Or inviting further contributions. Can you throw some more light on that? Means you're giving a feedback or asking a question. What happened after that? That means you were paying attention and now you want to know more. And respond non verbally, like suitable facial expression and natural smiles, open posture, sit properly, your hands straight, yourself straight. Yeah. Appropriate distance should be maintained, and attentive silence. Be silent because somebody else is speaking, but don't sleep like silence. Don't sleep, just pay attention and give feedback whenever it is needed. So this is how you can overcome the barriers and you can become a good listener. Okay, that's it about the listening part, and now we will be moving on to the next module.